Hey there, friends. Welcome to this episode of Populence. This particular show is going to follow one of the new formats, and I'm going to stop mentioning this because basically Populence is just my YouTube show, and that's that. And I'm going to talk about whatever the heck I want to talk about, and I'm going to bring people in, and they're going to talk with me about things that are whatever the heck we want to talk about. Some that will interest you, some that will not interest you. Hopefully, they all interest you and you stay watching, and we have an incredible love affair, you and I. This particular one is about politics. As you know, I'm an artist, and so my big thing is art, and lots of times I'm working on these paintings and I'm like restoring something, or I'm creating a fake of a master painting, or I'm making my crazy art that sometimes is political, sometimes it's pop, sometimes it's surreal, sometimes it's not surreal. Sometimes I'm talking about tech, like this great new Logitech webcam that I just got, that I set up for here in the art parlor, but also at my studio at the Inferno. But for today, we're talking politics, we're talking election 2020, upcoming presidential election. Very exciting. On the Democratic side, we got some hard choices to make, and we need a great candidate. For me, and I'm just going to say it out front, Bernie is the person. He is the guy who's saying he means what he says what he means, and that's that. However, there are some other great candidates too, and I don't want to kind of write them all off because who knows who's going to come out on top. And whoever does come out on top, I want to be behind them 110%. So right now, it's really important for me, and I think that everybody should think of this way, is that we can still kind of affect change with these candidates. You know, maybe they're saying that they're going to do things a certain way, and with our input and with our pressure, we can kind of help them go into another direction. So they need to do the will of the people, basically. And that's one of the things that Bernie did this last time around. In 2016, everybody said he was nuts because he talked about climate change and Medicare for all and fighting Wall Street. And they're like, oh, you're crazy, little old man. Like, what are you going to do? That's pipe dreams. And it's like, you live in the Lord of the Rings land. It's like, no, now everybody's taken his agenda and that's what they're following. And it's awesome. But we're not there yet, 110%, because look, Bernie's not taking any corporate dollars. Tulsi's not taking any corporate dollars. Marianne Williamson is not taking any corporate dollars. Elizabeth Warren is not taking any corporate dollars, except if she gets the nomination. And that's what this episode is about. Is Elizabeth Warren has the little glass of Kool-Aid, and she kind of poured out half and said, look, she's got to use her hand covering the bottom half of it. She's like, see, I'm not going to drink anything in there. But it's like the bottom half has more Kool-Aid, and that indeed she has drunk. And she has said, hey, and I'm going to show you this clip that you can see for yourself, that once it comes time for the general election, if she has the nomination, she's going to take that corporate money. And for me, it's like, stab me in the heart and cut my heart out and spit on it and pour salt on it and squeeze it around and then throw it on the fire, cook it and eat it. Because I don't want you to be beholden to these corporate interests. I mean, we've had that forever and ever and ever since, I don't know, Dwight Eisenhower, who gave us the initial sound of warning saying, don't let the military-industrial complex take over the United States. And look, all these corporations and everything, it's like they've been doing it. They own us. They own all those politicians. And that's what we're fighting against. We need that to stop right here, right now. There's no more waiting. There's no more voting for the lesser of two evils. It's like that shit is behind us. F that. Enough is enough. Now let's just do what it is we need to do. I think the young people today, they're so smart, they're so intelligent, information moves so rapidly these days. They have grown up in a society where there's all these great tools where they can affect incredible change. I mean, the internet democratized a lot of things, and it continues to do so, and the tools we're creating continue to do that, but they can also be used as tools of oppression. And one of the greatest oppressions we have is money. Whether it's cash under the table or it's digital money, it can be used in an oppressive format. And that's what's going on. And look, all these politicians, forever they're saying, well, you can't run for president if you don't have the backing of these corporations and all this cash. It's like, yes, you can. Bernie Sanders proved it last time around. He took $0 from corporations. He came up, he won 23 states in the primary. 23. Cream, smash-o, breakthrough, super Bernie. And he did that with just donations from people like you and me. And that can be done. I mean, it's possible, people. It is possible. Believe in the people. That's where the real power is. And so we need Elizabeth to understand that too, because she's saying, well, I believe in power of the people in the primary, but not in the general election. It's like, no, that's when you need it most, is the power of the people. And I want to show this clip right now because it just kind of sets this all up, and it shows how she has said, hey, yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm taking money from regular folks, and that's how I'm powering my campaign. But in the general election, things are going to be different, and we're fighting all this corporate money and everything, and so we need our own money. And it's like, no, you're going to fight it with a sword of goodness and of the people, the power of the people. And so, Elizabeth, you don't really need to take those corporate dollars in the general election. You can rely on the people. You're going to see that she's going to say, well, you know, we're going to have people knocking on doors and things like that. She thinks she needs to pay everybody. Look, if you truly go out there and you fight for the people, you don't need to pay them. Payment, you can pay them by doing what's right. That's how you pay the people. Come on. Not by saying, hey, thanks for getting me here, but now I got this new buddy and he's Mr. Corporate Monster from Amazon or whatever, and he's got the big bucks and he's going to propel me into the office of the presidency. It's like, what? Are you kidding me? Stop. So we can change this now, but let's just watch this clip.
Swearing off big-ticket fundraising events and calls to wealthy donors in favor, the Wall Street Journal reports, of pay-what-you-can events is a major departure from the usual presidential campaign. Here to talk about the decision and others in her campaign, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren. Senator, what caused this decision? What does it mean for you?
So, look, we've got a problem in democracy right now, and that is that money just has too much influence in Washington. And we have a chance right now in a Democratic primary. We're in a primary. It's Democrats against Democrats to say, here's how we're going to do this. We're going to build from the grassroots. We're actually going to build a foundation for the Democratic Party that is really about face-to-face, person-to-person, neighbor-to-neighbor, people who are engaged in this campaign.
Call me crazy, but why does she say that we have a chance here in the primary? Like, she's about to roll on about this incredible opportunity for us to do this grassroots thing, but only in the primary. I don't get that. It's like, why do you not have the vision to see it for the entire election? Why?
Whether they can give $50 or thousands of dollars, what we care about is that we have a whole movement of engaged people who are going to help us get elected, not just to the White House, but help us take Congress, help us take state houses, help us take the governor's mansions, and help us have the momentum we're going to need to make the changes once we're elected. This is about how we build real change. So I'm excited about it.
So here's my question. You've been in politics for a little while. You've just...
I like how she says, this is how we build real change. I'm excited about it. It's like, it's kind of like Elizabeth Warren is Bernie Sanders light. Or how do you say it? She's kind of like, she's Bernie Sanders. She's got a sprinkling of Bernie Sanders, or I don't know. I like how she says that this is how you build change, and I'm really excited about it because she's parroting Bernie's message, because Bernie's like, this is how we do it. This is how it's been done throughout history and everything. However, there's still that one caveat of like, but only in the primary, not in the general election. And just the way she says, I'm excited about it. It's like, are you only excited about it in the primary, but not for the general election? Because the change that we're talking about doesn't just happen in the primary. It's not just to get you elected. And I think that's where there's like a misfire on her part. Like she's just kind of talking about getting elected. She's kind of talking about the change, but for her part, it seems that this change is just going to help her get elected. And then once she gets elected, she's going to revert back to the old system. Bernie is saying, no, when he talks about change, he's not talking about getting elected. He's talking about changing the whole system. He wants to blow it all up. He's going to take on Wall Street. He's going to take on the fossil fuel industry. He's going to take on the banks. He's going to take on, everybody. He's going to take on all these corrupt senators and representatives. He is going to he's going to light a fire that is just going to consume everything that's bad and allow us to rebuild America back into where it's supposed to be, where it's like something that serves the people, that it's we the people, not people serving governments, not people serving the senators, not us doing things so that these congressmen can enrich themselves. Let's carry on here.
Recently reelected, and
That's
during
right,
that
one
time,
Senate term.
right, one Senate term, right? So, and during that time, you've done calls to wealthy donors, you've done big ticket fundraisers, you've put together a pretty good war chest. I think about $11 million that you had amassed. What does that say about what you were doing before? If this is the right way to do it now, why now and why not before?
So look, I've never actually been in a deeply competitive primary. I get it. Republicans come to the table armed to the teeth. They've got all of their donors, their wealthy donors. They've got their super PACs. They've got their dark money. They got everything going for them. And I'm just going to be blunt. I do not believe in unilateral disarmament. We got to go into these fights, and we got to be willing to win these fights.
So this just applies to the primary. Like, were you to get the
This
nomination, or anyone else to get the nomination, like, just raise all the money you can, however you can.
Yes, but here's what I want you to see that's different about it, Chris. Think about the difference once we're down to the two candidates. If the Democrats have spent the next year in a primary building this thing face-to-face, person-to-person, neighbor-to-neighbor across the country, think of the kind of foundation that we have laid down so that when we're really up against it in the general election, it's not just money to fund television ads. It's all the folks who'll do the door knocking. It's all the folks who'll make the phone calls.
So this is where she gives it to you. She admits, she's like, I'm not for unilateral disarmament with the Republicans. She's not for it. She's saying, hey, yes, we're going to raise that. I'm going to take corporate dollars in the general election. Okay, so she says at least she's honest about that. I give it to her on that. But the thing is it means she doesn't believe in the people, because she goes on to say, hey, think about it once we get into the election, think about the foundation that we've built. It's like, yeah, you've built all this foundation with all these people. And she's like, we're going to need door knockers. You don't need to pay them. Pay the people by being a good president. Pay the people by taking on all these institutions that are screwing us day after day. Take on the health insurance companies. Take on the pharmaceutical companies. Take on Wall Street. Take on all these bloody banks, man. I mean, come on. Jesus. What is wrong with that? Like, don't you get it? If you really want to get it, when she says there, I get it. It's like, no, you don't get it. You don't get it if you're going to take corporate dollars, because they're going to own you, and they will own you no matter what you say. I'll play a clip later on where Hillary's doing the thing saying, I took this money, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to be beholden to them. And look, Barack Obama took money from these financial institutions, and then he passed the Dodd-Frank legislation, which was the strongest legislation we've had. It's like, woo, strong legislation that does what? Nothing. Come on. I mean, this is it. It's like, stay with the people. She doesn't have the faith in the people, and that bums me out. And I hope that somehow we can change her mind, that we can bring her over to this other side and say, Elizabeth, you can trust us. Because you can't trust those corporations. I mean, you can trust them to cut a check, but you know that they will then trust you to pass legislation that's on their side. You can make it look like it's for the people, but you've got to make those tweaks and changes that then it really ends up being for them. And that's really been our problem all along in this country, is we have, that's what happened. Barack Obama came in with great intentions. And he's like, I'm going to give you great health care. And they wrote this like beautiful plan that was basically some kind of Medicare for all. I mean, and Hillary, give her credit for it way back when she was, when Bill Clinton was president and she was the first lady. She tried to bring healthcare to the people, and people swatted her down. And I mean, that's probably why so many people hated her for so long. It's because she tried to do something good in this world of politics, which is like filled with like all these devils. It's like, that work for these big corporations. I mean, it's like, come on. I mean, you don't need them. Stay with the people. It's like, come on, Elizabeth. Please.
Folks who will reach out to their network, because you know how we're going to win in 2020? It's going to be big. It's going to be people who voted for Donald Trump last time around. It's going to be people who haven't voted at all. It's going to be people who see a vision and a way to make this democracy work, not just for the rich and the powerful, but make this democracy work for everyone.
Final question on this, and I want to ask a few other questions about some stuff that is happening in the campaign, a proposal you put forward. But for this final question, I guess the question is, how much is this an either or, right? There are campaigns that are able to build both a sort of that kind of grassroots fundraising machinery and also wealthy donors and also do big ticket fundraising. What does it mean for a candidate's time? Why make this sort of decision?
Well, see, that's the real point. The best estimates are that most candidates for office are spending about 70% of their time with millionaires and billionaires, spending it behind closed doors at fancy cocktail receptions and private dinners in mansions. Let me tell you what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to do call time tonight. You know what call time is.
I do know what call time is.
This is when you call and say
It gives me a
thank
stomachache, and
you.
I don't even have to do call time.
Well, I am doing call time tonight and tomorrow night and the next night, but here's the deal. The people I'm calling to say thank you to, I'm going to call not based on how much money they kicked in. I'm just going to pick these numbers up randomly, and I'm going to call people and say, thank you very much for being part of this. Thank you for going to ElizabethWarren.com, signing up, whether you signed up for $5 or $25 or $50. Thank you for volunteering, because that's how we get a chance to build a democracy. You know, Chris, I'm only going to come this way once as a first-time candidate for president. I want to run a campaign that's based on ideas, that's based on principles, that's based on restoring democracy. And I think this is a way to do that.
So now here we boil it all down to the whole reason for this particular episode of Populence, and that is the CNN episode on climate change, where Elizabeth Warren is asked this very, very good question regarding if she is going to follow suit with what Bernie Sanders is doing, which is Bernie Sanders has basically taken the position that, hey, in order to fight climate change, we need to take some steps to achieve a position where we can actually ensure that we're going to be able to fight climate change effectively. And one of those steps would be to take the utilities and make them public. So right now they're all private, and that, as you know, creates a problem because private companies are all about profits and who cares about the people. And I think, utilities should be public because they serve the people, just like the mail, just like some of our other systems should be public. So watch this.
Hi, Robert.
Hi. Bernie Sanders has endorsed the idea of the public ownership of utilities, arguing that we can't adequately solve this crisis without removing the profit motive from the distribution of essential needs like energy. As president, would you be willing to call out capitalism in this way and advocate for the public ownership of our utilities?
Gosh, I'm not sure that that's what gets you to the solution. I'm perfectly willing to take on giant corporations. I think I've been known to do that once or twice. But for me, I think the way we get there is we just say, sorry guys, but by 2035, you're done. You're not going to be using any more carbon-based fuels. That gets us to the right place. And if somebody wants to make a profit from building better solar panels and generating better battery storage, I'm not opposed to that. What I'm opposed to is when they do it in a way that hurts everybody else. You shouldn't be able to externalize these costs. That's the problem with fossil fuels right now. I think that the best way we go forward here is we open up the opportunities. We open up the possibilities. We invest in the science. We invest in the manufacturing. We invest in the pieces that let us build a future together going forward. But, I just want to be clear. We got to have tough rules that we are willing to enforce. And that means we have got to be willing to fight back against these giant industries. And that's where the whole thing starts for me. We put them on their back foot, then we have a real chance to make the changes we need to make. And that's what it's going to take.
Senator Warren, let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more questions for the senator. And
here's where it all breaks down. She just shows you very clearly that when it comes to fighting those forces, she's not going to be willing to do it. She's backing down saying, hey, I don't think that's the way to do it. I think we should just go up there and tell them, hey, what, just like Hillary did here?
Whether I can stand up to Wall Street. Well, let's have some facts instead of some rhetoric for a change. I went to Wall Street when I was a United States Senator. I told them that they were wrecking the economy. I asked for a moratorium on foreclosures. I asked that we do more to try to prevent what I worried was going to happen. I also called for closing loopholes, including the carried interest loophole. I also called for changes in CEO pay.
And there you have it. Just like Hillary. I went up there and I told them, you do this, you do that. It doesn't work. You can see it clearly. How did it work for Hillary? She went and told them all these things and said, hey, I asked you to close these loopholes and do all this. And what? Big fat goose egg. So that's not the way to go. That's not what we need. We need our candidate to be strong, to be with the people, to believe in the power of the people and not take that corporate money. And, this is a critical item on the agenda that we need to hold up and ask our candidates to be able to do, is to trust the people, to be with the people, and to not take the corporate money so that they're not beholden to these corporations, so that they're not making decisions based on what's good for that corporation and not for the people. Please, 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 Elizabeth, I hope you decide to change your mind, because the old way of doing it, it's not going to work in the new paradigm.